Hey everyone, Tony D with another hot take. And this one is what else about politics and the coronavirus. I'm going to try to keep it mostly about politics, Corey. Just calm down. Anyhow, um, just a quick update. We're at 50 cases in New Jersey. I don't know where you are, those of you who aren't Corey. But if you are seeing a lot of cases pop up in your state, man, stay home. No wonder you're watching YouTube videos, right? Um, so hopefully you don't have it. Hopefully you won't get it. Hopefully we could ride this whole thing out. Trump's speech today, press conference or event, whatever you want to call it. He looked okay, looked on point. I still think he has the coronavirus. I think he has it. He kind of was a little evasive about getting tested, and I think he's playing games about being tested because I think he knows he has it. He's not feeling well, and he's low energy. I mean, he was okay today. He was a little better than he was in the speech, but he's still low energy. Now, you could say that was, he's under a lot of pressure. And let's be honest, he's under a different kind of pressure. He thrives under the pressure of like going after rivals. He can't do that with the coronavirus. He can't call the coronavirus names. He can't undermine the coronavirus's confidence and turn the coronavirus's allies against one another like he's done with the Democrats. So this is a real challenge for Trump, and he has to do things that he had no plans to do. I mean, this is a real monkey wrench into his administration and his plans. So first up, we got to talk about China briefly. China needs to be addressed because of the coronavirus. Whatever you think of Trump, it's the Chinese government who is very much to blame for this getting out of hand. They could have kept this virus contained if they had followed protocols, if they had, came right out the gate with, oh, we got a problem. The international community certainly would have helped them. But they didn't. They sat on the information for 2 months. They are number one to blame. So, you could say, well, Trump, his attitude and his response wasn't great, whatever. It's not his fault this virus is out. It's just not his fault. He didn't do this, and the Chinese government, again, it's all about the communists screwing things up for everybody else. So, whatever you think of Trump, I mean, he seems to be doing the best he can. I mean, come on. People say, oh, he should have gotten more serious sooner. I think he did what he should do, which is to be optimistic until he couldn't be optimistic anymore. And even today, he wasn't a downer, which you can't be a downer about this. You can't make people panic. When you have bad information, Trump understands that you want to drag out the rollout of that bad information as long as possible. So eventually, when you finally get to the information, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I was kind of ready for this. When you tell somebody, oh, by the way, there's a deadly disease and, a lot of people are going to die. What? I mean, you don't want to lead with that. You want to kind of like wind people up a little bit, get them like lay the groundwork and, tell them positive things. You don't want the situation. One of the reasons the situation with the toilet paper in Australia happened is because I forget which public official in Australia. What do they have? A prime minister? I think they have a prime minister. Anyhow, I believe it was the prime minister who said something like, "Oh yeah, it's a real problem," whatever, and that kind of sparked the run on TP. Trump has to be very careful rolling this stuff out. He doesn't want to cause a panic, and people could very well get crazy. I think for once, the leaking of the information in this case slowly rolling out was probably good, because otherwise, if they had told people right away, it could have been bad. Now, I think part of it is a lot of people just didn't believe that this was going to be as bad as it seems to be shaping up to be. And even now, there are people who are saying, well, as the virus spreads, it will likely get weaker and weaker, and this will just turn into the flu. Hopefully that's the case. But in the meantime, it's likely things are going to shut down for a few weeks, and you have to be prepared. Now, the big news with regard to politics is Louisiana has postponed its primary. Now, Louisiana really, in my mind, isn't really a key state in the Democratic primary election, but I understand why they're delaying it, because you don't want large gatherings of people at the voting booths getting each other sick. But there's still plenty of time to have the primary, before, I believe, the Democrats meet in July. I mean, it's months away. They should be planning to have this vote, sometime late June. And if the Democrats have to, they're going to have to push back their convention by a month or two. That's all there is to it. The longer they push back the naming of their candidate, Trump's not going to be able to beat up on their candidate. I mean, he can beat up on Biden because he's the presumptive nominee, but typically you don't until there's an actual nominee, because there's always a chance he might not be there. He might not make it. I mean, let's be honest. Bernie, Biden, Trump, they're all very old. And I think, I think if Biden gets it, Biden's in trouble. He looks frail. He just looks frail now. Bernie, I think he's a tough old geezer, although really he statistically speaking, he'd be the most likely to pass away from this. I think he's just too tough. Bernie is a kind of a tough little commie. and Trump is too. I think Trump he's just going to ride it out and be miserable and probably make himself sick an extra week, but I think he'll get through it. And I think later we're going to hear them announce, oh, by the way, the president did have it, but he kept it under wraps or whatever. But I think he's probably infecting like everybody. So, which isn't good. But the thing is, most people are going to get this. Now they're saying it's going to be kind of low percentage-wise, so that's pretty good. They're looking at numbers. Initially, they said numbers of 40 to 70% of the world population. For the United States, the highest number now they're saying is 46%, which is good. They say it could be much lower now. But they are predicting maybe 150 million people will be infected in the United States, which to me is pretty realistic considering the incredible contagious nature of the virus. So keep washing them hands. But the question is, are they going to delay the primary? Are they going to delay the election? And how does this impact? I don't think it's going to impact things too much in terms of holding the vote. The Democrats, I don't think it would benefit them too much to drag this out and say, hey, we can't have our election. We need more time. Let's delay things. Because to delay things would then suggest, well, maybe we need to delay the general election to next year or something. God forbid we got to hear another year of election BS. I mean, I don't want to hear. Nobody wants it. I'm a libertarian. Libertarians haven't even picked their candidate yet. We don't campaign this long. I know. Nobody cares about the libertarians. The libertarians care about the libertarians. Thank you very much. But these people could certainly pick their candidate. You don't need a million years to do this. You just need to hold a vote. I think if they really, really are worried and we're really, really in the midst of this, you just have to do it online. Set something up. Certainly the DNC and the GOP and, quite frankly, the federal government, they have the means to do this. Um, I wouldn't trust an online vote myself, but maybe you could combine it with some sort of mail-in thing. You'd fill out a piece of paper and mail it in, and then you'd do your vote online, and they would tally the votes online, and then later they would do like a paper check or whatever. I don't know, but I actually don't think it's going to be that bad. I mean, the flu season will run its course, and probably they're saying by May we may run out of hospital beds in one model, but I think by June most of this will be over. Certainly by July. By July, it'll be so hot, like all the surfaces will probably kill the virus, which will really hold back its spread. And quite frankly, it was over 70 today. It was hot today. So we're headed for a very hot summer if this March is any indication, and probably a springtime that's going to feel like summer. In which case the virus could really grind to a halt, maybe within the next month, maybe before April. But right now it's still much of danger. We're up to 50 cases in New Jersey, so and Philly has got its first case, and it's just going to rip through it. Now a lot of people are getting on Trump for testing and all this other stuff. Look, at a certain point, it doesn't matter. It won't matter. There'll be so many people infected. They're just going to say, listen, everybody stay home for 2 weeks, and we're going to have to ride this out until, most people aren't sick. And at that point, most people will be immune, or the people who got sick will be immune. And hopefully there'll be a vaccine by then, or, like I said, it'll be too warm for it to spread. I think Trump handled himself pretty much okay today. I don't know what other things people expect. They're going to pass this package that includes a 2-week paid leave, which I assume is for the people who get sick. I'm not sure how that's going to work. It seems like that's going to cost a lot of money, but fortunately, in terms of the economic end, people were crowing today. All the Trump detractors were crowing about how, all his gains are gone in the economy, and then the stock market bounced back and regained it all. So I think the economy is very resilient here. I think once this is over, you're going to see a downturn, but once this is over, by the summer, things will be chugging along. Because remember, in the summer, everybody does things and goes on vacation and all that stuff. Now, I think the vacations and cruises and things like that, cruise lines, forget it. They're done. They're done for a while, I think. But, in terms of other things, in terms of the airlines, in terms of all that, that'll all bounce back. It'll all bounce back. It's just that people are going to have to take, in a business, different precautions. I think especially on planes, they're going to have to take maybe some sort of precautions regarding your passengers. Maybe you're going to have to take everybody's temperature before they get on the plane or something like that, like they're doing in China. I don't know if that's really going to do much, but I mean, you could and make people feel better. I think certainly the whole pandemic response in the United States needs a little tweaking. A lot of people complained, they complained that Trump didn't just shut down the planes. Well, it's more complicated than that. But in a time of national emergency, I think he probably should have the ability to close the borders temporarily for, an outbreak like this. This is the very thing we need borders for, by the way. people from down south are still pouring across the border, and some of those could be sick, and we could be in a situation in the Southwest where, oh yeah, in most of the country we got a handle on coronavirus, and then people are still coming across the border with it because the medical care here is better. Think about this: do you want to be in a hospital in Mexico with the coronavirus? I don't think you do. Um, you know, no offense to Mexico, but their healthcare system, you can't compare it to ours. They have medical facilities certainly, and in certain big cities are probably comparable. But overall, if you live in the sticks in Mexico and you get sick, you're in trouble. If you're poor, you're in trouble. But if you're here and you're poor, you're in good shape, especially if there's a bed or two left. And then you got to ask yourself, what happens if a lot of those migrants cross the border, or immigrants, or illegals, or whatever you want to call them, cross the borders, and they all get sick, and then the hospital's full, and then you get sick. That's not a good look. It's one thing. Yeah, we want to help people. Certainly if there are people here who are from Mexico and they get sick, we would like to help them. But do you want to help them at your own expense? No. We want to help the people we can help with the resources we have at our disposal. So there's a limit to that. And really, Mexico should kick up its game and be able to handle, its own people. But for a long time, they've just been an absolute basket case. Part of that is our influence. Part of that is the drug war, certainly. Actually, a lot of it is the drug war, I believe. So we should work to end that, but that's a discussion for another time. So, getting back to Trump. Will this derail the general election or hurt Trump in the election? Somewhat. But if it's Biden, and it probably is, Biden's going to have to tread very carefully if he tries to beat Trump with this issue. Because number one, it's not Trump's fault the coronavirus even happened. So it's going to be a tough sell to say, well, you really screwed up the economy, buddy. It's not really true. If it hadn't been for him making the economy so strong, it would be an easy argument to say, well, we probably wouldn't have gotten through this crisis. We'd probably be in a lot worse shape. In terms of a bungled response, that might be an easier sell once the true death toll happens. Currently, they're projecting it somewhere in the neighborhood of 700,000. It depends on who you believe. Originally we were talking like in the millions. Now it might be as low as 700,000, and that's the new high. So maybe they'll get a handle on this. Excuse me. And I don't have coronavirus, by the way. Maybe it'll only be a couple 100,000, a few thousand. If it was under the swine flu or under the regular flu, that would be pretty amazing. That would be pretty impressive. Hopefully this thing mutates and stops hurting people and just ends, just ends before any more people get sick. But we really can't count on that. So I hope you got your supplies. If you don't have your supplies, for God's sakes, think twice about going out tonight, because after this announcement of a national emergency, I got to think every idiot who didn't stockpile is now freaking out that they saw Trump on the news today, and they're stuffing their shopping cart with all kinds of things they don't need. In fact, I know one person who went to Wegmans yesterday and said half the store was empty, and he ended up buying a bunch of weird, organic, expensive stuff just to get the stuff he needed to get the heck out of there. It's probably a bad idea to go to the supermarket anyway, especially if there's going to be a lot of people there. If you've got food to last, give it a few days at least, I would say. And, as we get further into this, I think the strategy is going to be to, if you need more supplies, order them online. And if that's not working out, if you got to go to the store, try to go to the store at a weird time when there won't be a lot of people there. And I think you should cover your mouth. Try to wear gloves if you have them, or at the very least, just keep your distance from people. And whatever you do buy, get it in something in a package. Don't get. I'm avoiding any deli meats, anything like that now. Anything that would be cut in the store and wrapped in the store, I'm avoiding, despite the fact that I really like that stuff. I get stuff in a package now, and when you get the packages home, you got to wipe them off because you don't know how long it's been sitting in the store. And if somebody came by and picked it up, they got coronavirus and they're looking at it and they're breathing on it and they go, no, and put it back, and then you come along and pick it up. Now, the coronavirus can only last 9 to 12 hours on surfaces. So if you're the first person in the store, you're probably relatively safe. If you can get in there before anybody else, buy your stuff and be on your way, that to me would be a sound strategy for getting in and out of the store. But you'd want to do it quickly. Again, I would wipe down the stuff anyway. But, I'm a paranoid lunatic when it comes to germs, so what do I know? All right, this video is getting too long. Hope you're all safe. Hope you have a good weekend. Keep tuning in for videos. And if you need something to do while you're cooped up in the house, check out my books on Amazon.